All right, good Monday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for stopping by for a check of your forecast. Hope everyone is doing well today. It is Groundhog's Day, February 2nd, year of our Lord 2026, and we are very warm. So maybe Punxsutawney Phil doesn't necessarily know what he's talking about, at least for Amarillo. So we're going to break down your forecast for you anyway. You can see some of those higher clouds coming in from the west, southwest. Big trough starting to exit out east. Again, we are seeing a ridge that's going to build in across the northwest part of the country over the next several days. What that's going to do is going to just set the stage for us to be very warm and mild. We do have a cold front tonight. Otherwise, just that lone hiccup in the forecast is going to keep us pretty warm. So here's our sky cam in Dimmitt. You can see a few of those higher clouds streaming in overhead. Otherwise, it's been a warm day today. 69 in Amarillo, 69 in Dalhart, 74 is kind of our hot spot there in Borger, and a lot of us trailing closely behind. Tucumcari, Pampa, Canadian, Perryton, all at 73 degrees, 67 down in Silverton, and our winds are for the most part out of the south southwest. We've got that cold front slowly easing through the area right now. We think it's going to reach Amarillo probably a little bit before 6 p.m. tonight, and we can expect the winds to be a bit breezy behind it. They're sustained around 25 miles per hour there in Union and in Cimarron County. And so winds gusting as high as 35 definitely on the table for tonight. You may want to secure some of the loose items in the backyard before you go to bed. Hopefully, not long after you get home, because those winds could be a little bit of a nuisance overnight. Again, we're still bordering and touching the threshold for elevated to borderline critical fire conditions right now. So just keep that in mind. You may want to avoid activities that could start a fire. Probably don't want to be grilling with the charcoal today if you got the gas grill, so you can cut that fire off instantly. If anything bad does happen, you can do that, but probably not recommended for the charcoal fires this evening with how strong those winds are. Lows for tonight: 32 in Amarillo, 25 in Dalhart. We're going to tumble into the mid 30s the further southeast you get. So areas further northwest will be colder, just below freezing. Other areas not quite as bad. And then the afternoon, even though we do have the front coming through, it is going to drop us by a notable amount, 10 degrees or so. It's still going to be above average for our temperatures. We're going to get up to about 60 degrees for that high temperature tomorrow afternoon, which is about 5 to 6 degrees warmer than normal. And then on Wednesday, we'll probably have a day where we're a little bit below average. We are expecting some additional cloud cover to come streaming across the area, especially in our northeastern counties. Should that happen, we are probably going to be dealing with some really spotty rain showers. Might get cold enough for a few snowflakes to get to the surface. I just think there's going to be a lot of melting going on with those temperatures at the ground being, in the higher 40s. There's not going to be much air that's above freezing, but there's probably going to be enough anyway. Sorry, someone's trying to call the newsroom. Get those on the phone too. But I think that if we do see any snowflakes, it's going to melt on contact. It's going to start as rain for those showers that do try to develop. So, not expecting much in the way of winter weather on Wednesday. Here's our computer model running through the next couple of days. You can see that cold front coming through Amarillo not long after 6 p.m. And then we end up with the north wind tomorrow morning. Again, the windiest time frame is going to be tonight into the AM hours. As we get into the afternoon tomorrow, those winds actually die down, and some of them may even return to the southwest flow again, which will help us get back up to those high 50s and low 60s. As we move into Wednesday, there's some of those rain showers, very spotty rain showers. I mean, if you get lucky, you might squeeze 100th or 200th of an inch of precipitation out of the atmosphere, but we really don't anticipate a whole lot of active weather with that. This is what we're watching more closely. You can see the long range. We've got a big trough out here in the desert southwest, something that we'll need to watch as we get closer to the weekend. This does not look to be a very strong system, and so it does look like it may be on the weaker side. This next one, you've got a lot more of that cold air bottled up, at least north of it. But as far as the base of the trough, I mean, we're underneath most of this troughing. I mean, the best area of lift is probably going to be to our north and to our east with that second one as well. So there is some concern that even though we may fall into a more active weather pattern towards the middle of February, it may not necessarily be a good type of active pattern. It may be more of the dry slots causing issues with some wildfire concerns, but we are expecting some troughing to try and develop and become more persistent, especially as we move into the middle of the month. So this is a teleconnection. This is basically just tracking the P&A oscillation, the Pacific North American oscillation. When this line is above null space, above zero, and it's positive, that means that we've got a positive P&A. Positive P&As largely are dictated by a big trough out east and a big ridge out west. And that's what we've been dealing with. We've got, again, all that cold weather. I mean, they had temperatures in the 30s in Miami, Florida, not Miami, Texas, Miami, Florida, yesterday morning and early this morning. I think they were even in the 30s again. So it's definitely been very cold out in the eastern half of the country. But watch what happens. You can see as we get closer to the middle of the month, closer to Valentine's Day, a little even after that, that positive P&A nosedives. And a lot of our ensemble members, in fact, more than 75% of them, have us at least at null space and start trending us back towards kind of a -2 to -3 standard deviation away from what's considered normal or considered nothing, right there in the neutral ground. The Arctic oscillation, counterintuitively, is going to go positive again, and so we'll see if we even have much cold weather to deal with any of this active weather as it maybe potentially comes through. But all that means is when the P&A goes negative, we get troughing more persistent out there in the western half of the country. That puts us downstream of it. By no means does it guarantee that we're going to have moisture, but it's not necessarily a cold kind of event or pattern for us either. But if we do see enough precipitation or moisture pulled in, maybe we'll be talking about rain rather than snow with some of these events. Again, you can see that the Climate Prediction Center thinks that will be a little bit above normal. It's got a higher confidence down towards El Paso and Tucson, Arizona, them being a little bit warmer than normal. Again, you take this with a grain of salt. We're in a dry season, very easy to achieve above average. 1/10 of an inch is the threshold we need to get to in order to be above normal. But I think the bigger story with the long term will be the warmer temperatures and the fact that maybe some of those winds may start to increase with some of these events. If we miss the moisture, we're going to be in the dry slot. The winds are going to be strong. We haven't had a tremendous amount of moisture, especially in December. As of recent, that snow that we did have didn't go very far, especially for areas along and northwest of the Highway 60 corridor from Amarillo down towards about Hereford and Friona and areas up towards Canadian. There northwest, we only saw like 1 to 4 inches of snowfall. So, a 1/10 of an inch of moisture, maybe a 1/4 inch in some areas. That's not a whole lot. So if we do start seeing some windier days with warmer temperatures and we're on the wrong side of the dry line, that could spell trouble for fire weather concerns. I mean, we're about to get into the peak of wildfire season as it is anyway. February, March, and April are usually when we have our biggest and largest wildfires here in the High Plains. Most of them are human caused, unfortunately, but that's that a lot of that can be prevented. We actually have our wildfire special coming up at the end of the month, and so we've already talked with a handful of people. The National Weather Service, we've already spoke with them. We're speaking with a couple of pilots from some of the Texas Forest Service that they partner with. We've spoken to Texas Forest Service already as well. So I really, again, just want to encourage you guys to watch that at the end of the month on the 28th. It'll air on Saturday at the end of the month at 6:30 p.m. So we will preempt Wheel of Fortune that day. Sorry for you guys that like watching Wheel of Fortune. You'll have to miss it that one day. But it's going to have a lot of good details in there. It's going to have the forecast, going to kind of show you where we've been in terms of our wildfire pattern. We had a lot of above average rainfall last year that grew a lot of grass. So again, the conditions aren't present yet, but the fuel is already there. And so it's probably only a matter of time before we get some of those bigger fire days. Hopefully, as we transition out of La Nina and into El Nino, that will mean that we'll probably be a little bit closer to average for our precipitation, and maybe we can get out of fire season a bit sooner than what's considered normal. And again, a big contributor is this right in here. You can see that there's a lot of yellow showing up off of South America there along the equator. We have really watched La Nina just suffocate over the last 30 days. I mean, we were in a full-blown, large-scale La Nina-like pattern earlier at the beginning of January. Let me see if I can't grab some of that. Let's do the 30-day animation. So just take a look at this. This is January 3rd, 4th. I mean, look at that. I mean, this is clear La Nina at the start of the month, and then it just went away, especially here in the eastern half of where we would be watching for that La Nina pattern. I mean, look at how cold it is there to start the month. And all of that cold water has just disappeared. Usually when we're warm here in Nino's 1.5 or in the 1.5 region or the 1+2 region, that spells more active weather for us in the high plains. You can see it was very cold in December and jumping into January. And guess what? It was very warm. It was very dry. We didn't have hardly any active weather to talk about through Christmas outside of maybe 1 or 2 windy days. And again, big attribution to that was our sea surface temperature anomalies out here in Nino's 1+2 regions. But that's changed. That has flipped. And we may continue to see that flip as we get into the spring months. So hopefully we'll get out of La Nina fast and we won't have much of a fire concern to deal with. That is all I've got for you guys this afternoon. Thank you so much for stopping by. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you